Welcome to Beyond the Frontline podcast, where your hosts, U.S. Air Force veterans Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson, will help you transition from the front line to the home front. Listen every other Wednesday as they will bring great conversations, resources, tips, and feel-good stories that will resonate and relate. Now, here's your hosts, Donna Hoffmeyer and Jay Johnson.
Well, welcome back, everybody, to another episode of Beyond the Front Lines. This is one of your two co-hosts. My name is Jay Johnson, and if you've been following us for a while, I just want to say welcome back, and we're always so glad that you take time out of your day to tune in. My partner in crime, my co-host, the one and only Donna Hoffmeyer, she is going to be joining us during this session, but in the spirit of just transparency. We all have busy lives. We've got lots of things competing for our time, and we always want to honor the time of our guests that we bring on, that we're introducing you to, and trying to help you, get a feel for different things that people are out there doing, impacting the veteran community, and many cases, these people we're bringing into these episodes, they are veterans themselves, and they are still serving in the community, and that's certainly going to be true of our guest today. But before I get to introducing our guest, I just want to share with you that this podcast, I believe you know this podcast is part of a network of veterans-related podcasts, and our parent network, Coming Home Well, is a great resource for you to keep at your fingertips. You can go out there and peruse the listings of all the different podcasts they have available to you. And I promise you, there's something in there for you. And even if you're not a veteran tuning in and listening, we want to say thank you. We're glad you're here, because you know what? We believe most people in life know a veteran, know someone who has served, knows the family member of a veteran. And we're all about equipping and resourcing and educating. And I love to say, in life, we can't beware of something until we're first made aware of something. So it's certainly what Donna and I have sought to do. So we're glad you're here. And I know you're going to find something of value in this episode, as I pray you do all episodes that we've done. So I'm joined in studio today by Ralph Crowder. He's a dear friend, somebody that I've gotten to know over the last year plus, somebody I respect. I get to watch the way he interacts and engages. He leads with his heart. Ralph is a retired Command Master Chief, Navy veteran, 26 years. He had a really amazing career. You're going to get to hear a little bit about that career. You're going to get to hear him share his heart and some decision points he faced along his life journey, and what he's doing today. So when he was in the Navy, he spent a fair amount of time in the beginning launching and catching aircraft from carriers, and spent the last 7 years of his career as a Command Master Chief, as I was saying. And then we all face this kind of reckoning at some point, those of us that serve, whether you served, a couple years in uniform, or whether you made a career out of it and spent 20 to 30 plus years in uniform. A day comes when it's time to transition to whatever's next. And so Ralph, and I know him as Gable, and I'm going to ask him to share a little bit of that story, because I don't know, to be honest with you, what led him to go by Gable more than his given name. I myself go by a nickname rather than my given name, but we're going to get that out of him while we're on the podcast today. But I will tell you today, Gable, as I'll now refer to him, he serves as the Director of Community Engagement for South Texas Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And I shared with you, I admire this human being. I get to be in the room with him. He's got infectious energy. I think you're going to hear that during our time together today. But just let me now welcome my guest, my friend, Ralph Gable Crowder, to this call. What's going on, my friend?
Well, Jay, thank you very much for the introduction. Yes, I am Ralph Stanley Crowder III. That's my whole name. Gable. Now, Gable came about when I first went into the military. The first leader that I ever had. I come in and I have a little thin mustache, and my hair is cut. I got a fade. You're talking 91 when this came about. And my first leader, his name was Patton, so we called him General Patton. But he was a first class petty officer, and he came up to me and said that I look like the black version of Clark Gable.
Oh, check this out.
Yeah. So at that time, I was like, I know the name, but I didn't know exactly who it was. So I researched, and this is Gone with the Wind. I was like, I can take that. He's a handsome man back then considered. So, Gable just stuck. So it went from Clark Gable to Dark Gable, right?
Oh,
So Dart got cut off, and then Gable has stuck with me throughout my naval career. So if you have ran into me in the Navy and beyond, even here in San Antonio, Gable is the name that everybody knows me by. But if you know me when I went to high school and 1 year of college, you know me by Stanley. Normally Stanley is the name back in Baltimore where I was born and raised.
that's good. I can't believe I never asked you that,
Yeah.
Gable. So I love hearing that story. And when you said the thin pencil mustache, it
Yeah.
still didn't dawn on me until you said,
Yep.
they referred to you as like a Clark Gable type. So now it makes sense to me because I can picture that little thin mustache he wore.
Yeah.
So that's
Yeah.
fun, man. And isn't it interesting, Gable? I mean, I don't want to take us down a rabbit hole here, but it's interesting how our identities or things can get, caught up in names that are given to us along the way. I shared earlier, my real name's not Jay, but early in my military career, I think my second duty station, I arrived in England and they said, "What do you go by?" And my real name's Robert Johnson, and I grew
Yeah.
up being called Bobby. So I
Yeah,
said,
of course,
I,
Robert.
I, yeah, I said I go by Bobby, and they're like, "We've already got one of those. You gotta go by something else." And
Yeah.
man, how do you just don't pick something out of the air? But somebody started calling me J Man, like the letter J in man. And
Mhm.
after year and a half, 2 years of people calling me J Man, at some point it morphed just to J, and that's truly my identity today. I sign things with J. So I hear you. Gable
Yeah.
is how I know you, but I can't believe I never asked you that story.
Yeah. Well, now you know. No one's half the battle.
Now I know it's true, man. Well, look, I love that we were able to have you join us on this podcast, Gable, because there are people that, what's that saying we use in the military? Some gave all, but all gave some.
I'll give some. Mhm.
Yeah, when I look at you, and I know there are veterans out there serving in a lot of ways. It's who we are. I think it's in our DNA. Uh, from our time in uniform, we do by and large have servant hearts, but there are people who serve and give some, and there are people who serve and give all. And I don't mean it in the sense that we use it in the military, meaning someone gave their life in defense. We know that that is a unique thing to our service. But I'm going to tell you, you pour it out and you leave it all out there on the table. You give fully of yourself. And so I want to spend our time together, Gable. I want to hear a little bit about your background. I'd love for you to just take a few moments, share where you grew up, what life was like, what led you to the military. Let's hit a little bit on your career. And then I want to move to kind of the space that you operate in today, this nonprofit arena, things you've done, and what you love about the work you do now. And the one thing I know about you is there's always something coming next. So
Yeah.
I'll see if I can't get you to share a few looks into the future on that too. Talk
Yeah.
about your upbringing, Gable.
All right. So, born and raised in Baltimore, Maryland. My mother and father. I was fortunate enough. I grew up in the projects in Baltimore, and we stayed in the projects until we got to high school. And my father worked himself from. He got drafted, and once he got drafted, he came back because he was the only son out of the family. So he came back. He was in the army, and
Yeah.
he worked from the bottom all the way to where he became a manager of a supermarket. Supermarkets back on in DMV, as we call it, back in Delaware, Maryland, Virginia.
Okay.
Food Lion, that's what they're called now. Food
I know
Lion.
Food Lions. Yeah.
Yeah. So it used to be called Browns, then Big B, and then it turned to Food Lion. So my father made it up to manager. So as soon as he made it to manager, he moved us out of the projects. But the one thing about me was that the stereotype of being in Baltimore, I didn't have a single parent. I had both of my parents. My dad was the official neighborhood father for a lot of people,
Wow.
because a lot of the friends that I hung out, they were single parent homes, and their moms were the ones upbringing them. So when things came, they would knock on my door, and it either I came to the door, my mom came to the door. They was like, "Yeah, it's Mr. Crowder here. I got an issue with my son, or something's going down." And I saw my father always trying to fix things, trying to help people, so that I visionary, and I always respected my dad for that. So here it is. I'm growing up and I'm thinking I'm going to be a baseball player. I played baseball from 5 all the way up until now. I mean, it turned into softball, but my goal was to be a baseball player. So I'm playing baseball. I have the University of Maryland, Coppin State College, which is a HBCU in Baltimore, and Towson State. Those three were
Yeah,
looking at me to play baseball.
that's awesome.
Towson State wanted to give me a full scholarship. And Coppin State, I wanted to go there because initially I wanted to go to a HBCU, and my mother and father, they never went to college until later. After I got my degree, they started getting their education. So I was kind of first before them. So I wanted to go to there because it was in the heart of the city, and my friends was going there. And then the University of Maryland was there too. Out of all the three, I wish I would have went to Towson State, honestly, because they wanted me
Really?
there. Yeah. So I went to Coppin State, and they had me on a partial scholarship. And as a freshman, they wanted me there as a catcher. Um, so the catcher that was in front of me, he was a junior, and I was better than him, but he was a junior, and his defense was better than me. But where I was messing up at was academics.
Oh,
So the academics portion was not favoring me. So after a year, I kind of figured out that school wasn't for me because I just wanted to concentrate on baseball. So here it is. I have a Navy recruiter, just in a nice uniform. And I see him, I walk into the recruiter's office, and it didn't take long. I went in, he told me that I can be in for 2 years. It was called ATD, apprenticeship training department, ATD. I went in. So that was a 2-year thing. So I went in, and I became a ABH, which was aviation boats made of handling. So we're all under the same thing: ABE, ABH, ABF. So I went in as an ABH. 2 years passed, and then I became an ABE, which is aviation boats made of equipment. And I made third class, I made second class, and then I went to Pensacola, Florida. My first duty station was on board the USS Nimitz.
okay.
Yeah, the USS Nimitz aircraft carrier, and it was stationed up in Bremerton, Washington.
Wow.
Um, I picked Bremerton, Washington because on the orders it said Washington, I thought it was Washington, D.C.
Up near Delaware, but the other
Yeah,
side of the
that was
country.
me
Yeah.
thinking it's DC, but I went to Bremerton and I was like, what is this place? But lovely place. So majority of my career, I did 10 years in Bremerton. After Bremerton, I went to Florida, Pensacola, Florida, and that's what I did, shore duty. And I became an instructor. And all that, and I instruct a school for aviation boats and made of equipment.
Okay.
Yeah, so I went down as a second class, and then I came after 3 years of being down there. I came down as a second. I left as a chief petty officer. So within 3.5 years, I went from E5 to E7, right? So then I became a chief petty officer. My first duty and tour that I had was on board the USS Stennis, John C. Stennis.
Yeah.
And that was in California. So I went to California, and ironically, on the USS Stennis, there is like a little bit of like video history of me as well. So
That's cool.
when I was on board the Stennis, I worked in the safety department, right? So I went TAD. They sent me TAD on board the ship, and I was the departmental
This is temporary
LTPO.
duty when you say that, those terms, because
Yeah,
I'm an Air Force guy, right?
when I
So,
say yeah, I went TAD. That's temporary assigned duty
yeah.
within the ship,
Okay.
and I was the leading chief petty officer for the safety department,
Okay.
and I was a E7. So ironically, on board an aircraft carrier, there is like 20 plus departments that master chiefs run. So you got air department, E9 is running that. you got fuels. I mean, you got weapons. An E9 is running that. Here it is, me. I'm a E7, just making chief, and I am a department LCPO, leading
That's
chief petty officer.
that's
So I'm in
amazing
the
stuff.
meetings with the captain, which is a O6. I'm in there with an admiral. I'm in there with all these E9s, and I'm learning early how to be a leader because I'm sitting back watching Master Chiefs work, work as one and being in the unison. So I'm taking it up. I'm humble. I'm sitting back and I'm taking it all in. So here it is. I leave that ship, and because of the duty that I had, I was called big safety on board the ship, right? So if you was to go on YouTube today, and if you was to put in big safety, there will be 4 videos that I did with the background of Terry Tate, the office linebacker.
Oh, I remember those series, man. That's
Yeah,
fun.
so what I did was I mimicked Terry Tate on board an aircraft carrier with people doing safety infractions on board the ship. So
So
you
you're
would have.
running down a gangway tackling people
Yeah,
because
yes,
they
yes, I was. I was. So one of the best parts of like the first video that we made, and one of the best parts from it was when um you shouldn't walk through the ship with headphones on, because if you got headphones on, you're not going to know what's going on. You won't hear the 1MC. The 1MC is the open messaging circuit for on board the ship, so everybody hears the message that's coming out. So we
yeah,
had a rule that you don't wear headphones on unless you're working out on the
that
treadmill.
got it. Makes sense.
Right. So we had a part to where that the guy is walking on the mess decks, and he got his headphones on, and people was trying to tell him to take his headphones off. So here it is. He turns around, and when he turns around, I come running and I tackle him, and I tell him some things, and then we made it a four video series.
Um,
So
hey,
I need to probably send that to you. I mean, if you go to
uh,
YouTube and you just put in big safety, there's 4 videos that
I
come up.
was about to say to you, Gable, I'm telling you from the moment we get done with today's
Yeah,
episode,
yeah,
I'm gonna look at that. And now I think it's fun though for our guests because they're gonna get to visually see you. I
yeah.
shared everybody when Gable and I were talking, just before stepping to the episode that Donna and I haven't got to the point where we are releasing the video yet. That will happen, we think at some point. But I think out of curiosity, people are going to want to put a face to the name they're listening to you. Now they know they can go out to YouTube, type in big safety. And if
Big
you've never
safety.
seen these Terry Tate videos,
Yep.
catch one of those and then go watch Gable's
Then go
video.
watch
Because,
mine. Yeah,
yeah, they got
exactly.
to be good, Gable. They've got to be good.
They
Okay,
are.
so here's what I heard. Man, Baltimore, Maryland, nuclear family, which for the area you were in, that wasn't as common, and so your dad played an influential role watching you, or you watching him and seeing how he tried to help others.
Yeah.
Uh, Baseball player. I remember you
Yeah.
briefly sharing that with me in the past. So mad skills, still playing today, right? Softball pickup and some of that probably, but uh, I heard you say you see this Navy recruiter, and you said he was in uniform. It looked clean, right? Crisp. I'm going to say just it stood out. And you said he lured me in. I'm paraphrasing
Yeah.
under this premise of a 2-year deal. What I didn't get, Gable, and I know we're not done talking about things you did in the military, but
Mhm.
what took you beyond the 2 years? There must have been something you got in there and found something that resonated with you. What led you to then turn it into this career?
Uh, well, I went home on leave, and when I went home, I saw that my friends that were, they graduated from high school, but they still was within the drug game. They were
Yeah,
still hanging out on the corner.
yeah,
They were still doing things that after me coming from the Navy, coming back there to visit, after 2 years, I could have got out. And I was really manifesting on like, what should I do? And I have a friend that I call a mentor. He's a year older than me, but he specifically protected me from dealing drugs, messing with drugs,
man.
anything, because he was in the game and he respected my father. And he told my father that I'm gonna make sure that Stanley is not going to be in his life. I'm gonna make sure he goes to his baseball games, he goes to school, he gets that education. His name is Keith Leach. Keith, he protected me. He was the one person, if I got in trouble or somebody was trying to beat me up, you say Keith, his nickname was Scooter. So you say Scooter in my neighborhood on the projects, people would slow down and be like, okay, I know you know Scooter. But he would pick me up, take me to school. Sometimes I'd be like, man, I don't feel like going to practice. He would drag me in the car and it's like, you're going to baseball practice. I need a way to go to the Orioles Stadium because it was Memorial Stadium back then.
I remember. Yeah.
He's like, you need to be an Oriole. You need to come back and play baseball here. So he was another person that I looked up to as
Is
well.
he still in your life, Gable?
He's still in my life. He's having some health problems right now. So I stay in contact with him, but he did unfortunately went to jail for at least like
Yeah.
15 years.
Yeah.
Like when I went into the military, that's when he went to in prison.
I
And then
love that. I love, Gable, that your father had such an impact on this guy that he respected your dad enough and then stood in the gap,
yep.
right, on things that could have easily drawn you in like it did others. And I'll just say, in the spirit of transparency, here, Gable, I was involved in some things that when I was younger that today, I don't look back on so fondly. But man, mad respect for somebody like that. Scooter standing in the gap, watching out for you. So now you're on active duty. You're getting these opportunities ahead of the game because they're seeing something in you, and you're giving more responsibility and leading some large tasks. Let's pick up from there.
Yeah, so here it is. I told you about I was on the Stennis. So when I transferred from the Stennis, I went back to Pensacola. And as soon as I got to Pensacola, Florida, I made E8. So I was a senior chief petty officer. So I went down there as the leading LCPO of the ABEs for A school. So I go down there and, I finish I start some education. I meet some men down there that are very powerful to me. And the one thing that I picked up from them was that your job is to make leaders, don't make followers. That is your job. So today I use that same concept because I break it down like first thing I'm going to do to be a good leader is that I'm going to lead myself first. So me leading myself is making sure that I can get whatever weakness that I have, I can turn that around and make it better. So the one weakness that I did have for a little stint was administrative tasks, right? So getting in front of email and trying to make sure that I mark out my day and make sure that I have stuff going on. So that was a hard task for me. But what I did was I led myself to research to see what would be a better way for me to do that. So I did. So once I did that, I was like, well, I'm going to be in a position to where I can lead people. So me as a senior chief petty officer, I had 8 first-class petty officers under me. 8. And I said, my job is I'm going to make sure that y'all make chief petty officer. So what I started doing was I started delegating tasks to them. I started making sure I wasn't telling them, I would delegate stuff to them. I would never tell them what I need, like to dictate per se, like this is what I need you to do. This is what needs to happen. No, what I did was I gave them enough room to where I delegated some tasks to them and they would figure it out on their own so they can research, so they can
Yeah.
actually feel like that they're worthy of what's going on. So that worked for me for forever and I still use it now.
You know what I hear inside of that, Gable, which is something Donna and I talk on all the time, and Donna's with us in studio, and we'll bring her voice in here in just a second. Is, man, what I hear in you is you were teaching people to fish, right? There's that old saying, "Give a man a fish" versus teaching him. You were teaching,
Yes.
and I think that's a key part of how we train people to be self-sufficient and become leaders of others, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah, because from making senior chief, the thing was that I lead myself first, and I lead the people that's with me, and then I can lead leaders, and then not only that, I can lead leaders that lead leaders that lead groups. So that was like kind of the pillar that I took. I conquered leading myself. I conquered leading other people, right? So now I wanted to be in a position where I can lead leaders. So ironically, they had it just became new in the Navy. It was called Command Senior Chief. So you can be a command senior chief as a E8 or senior chief in the Navy, and you can be a part of the triad leadership um, early in your career and have a command. So it can be the captain, the XO, and the command senior chief. So I put in a package, and sure enough, the package came back, and they said I got selected to be a command master chief. So what happened was that I went to is called the MCM crew leader. Now the MCM crew leader was the squadron that I was in. I went to minesweepers. So minesweepers are wooden ships in the Navy. So let me put this in good terms here. For one, I went from the biggest ship in the Navy that
Yeah.
holds 6,500 people on board to the smallest ship in the Navy that we have with a command that holds 85 people and is wooden. So
That's
that was a transition that I did. So I worked in aviation for over 19 years. And here it is. I went because I wanted to do something different. I went surface. So when you go surface, that's when you're just on the water at sea and you're doing things not with aircraft. You're doing things with bosun's mates. You're doing rope. You're driving the ship. I learned how to drive the ship. I learned so many things when I went there as a command senior chief because it's 85 of us for one. And on board, I had to get qualified to drive the ship, navigate the ship. I was a part of the fire team that's on board because everybody in the Navy is a firefighter. Because if that ship catches on fire, nobody's coming out there to save you. You got to save yourself. Mind you, at this particular point in my career, I'm on a wooden minesweeper. And the mission for the minesweeper is to go out there and find mines and to destroy them if they're out there. So our task was to go over to I'm gonna say Bahrain. That's where it was.
yeah.
Bahrain, and they got the Strait of Hormuz there, right? And in the straits, they would put mines there. So if ships come through, the mines attach and cause damage.
Yeah.
Our job was to go out there and fish for these mines. And we would get the mines, and then we have they're called MNs, minemen. That's the name of them. I never knew that was a rate. They're called minemen. And their job is to be on board minesweepers and to destroy mines when they catch them.
Wow.
So big shout out to the minemen that I knew personally, and knowing that rate, because I didn't know it was a rate, and I did not know we had wooden ships. I thought we just had the USS Constitution up in Boston.
Well, you've blown my mind saying this. No pun intended when I say that. I'm going to turn to Donna because I was watching Donna's face as you were sharing that too. Donna, number one, when Gable said 6,500 people on his ship, right? I went from one of the biggest. I think that's larger than so many cities, that are in rural America. 6,500 people. What stuck out to you, Donna?
That's 5 of my hometowns.
Yeah, that's
5,
nuts, right?
yeah. That's insane. But what actually popped in my head is that when you said you went down to 85, I'm like, oh, that's like going from a stateside deployment to an overseas assignment. I mean, a stateside assignment to overseas. Like when you get overseas, you're more focused and concentrate and you're closer because that's all you got. You got those
That's
people,
true.
and then it goes from there. Deployment, FOBs, that kind of thing. Like, I get it. That you rely on each other a lot more,
That's true.
Heck yeah. So the minesweepers, that really grounded me on making leaders because I'm an aviation background guy, and everybody there except for me is not aviation. They're all surface background. So I come with my aviation pen. I got my surface warfare pen too, but they know I'm aviation and they sizing me up talking about, what do you know about surface warfare? What do you know about tying knots, to moor a ship, to drive a ship, to navigate a ship, right? So what I did was I did what I thought was the best thing to do. I humbled myself. I went to the best person who knew how to drive the ship, was a third class petty officer, E4. And they knew their job. So I humbled myself to get guidance underneath them. And then there's two things I say about respect, right? Is either you earn respect, you got to either earn, or is either you're going to earn respect or demand respect, right? I wanted to always earn respect because when it's time for me to demand it, it would be that much easier for me to do my job.
I love
And
it.
that's exactly what I did on board that Minesweeper. I got all 85 personnel on board. I earned their respect because I went down and I learned for what they had going on. And then in transition, my job was to make leaders from out of them. Like, so, I was like, I'm gonna make your leader and you're gonna understand exactly like what it is to be a leader. So I go to the Minesweeper, I'm there for 2 years, and then the E9 results come out. And I put in to be a command master chief. So then here it is in turn, I make E9. I become a command master chief now. So I'll go on board the USS Pinckney. So that right there was another surface ship. It wasn't nothing in aviation. So I'll go on board the USS Pinckney. I'm on board there, and I go from 85 people to 350. So on an aircraft carrier, when I was in charge of the ABEs, there was 500 people I was in charge of, right? And then when I was in safety department, there was 20 people that I was in charge of. But I was a departmental LCPO, so I was kind of, I had less people, but I was with the master chiefs. If you remember what I said when I stated.
Yeah.
So here it is, all that guidance and what I learned when I was a E7 chief petty officer, and then what I started off to do at the Minesweepers when I was a senior chief petty officer, E8. It was time for me to shine and be a E9, and I had like 15 chiefs under me. I had a chiefs mess, and I had 15 to 18 chiefs, senior chiefs and chiefs underneath me. So that was great for me. That is, I was like, I want to lead men and women to be leaders. So once again, I told him, I said, hey, my job is to make sure you lead yourself first. Find your weakness, right? Once you find your weakness and conquer that, then you can start leading people. And then from leading people, you can lead leaders. And then after you conquer leading leaders, you can lead groups of people that lead leaders, right? So I kept telling them that. And sure enough, a lot of people from making chief, they made senior chief, and then they went on and made officer, and they went and pushed forward. So that was me, and leadership has never left me. I mean,
Yeah.
at some point, I'm trying to figure out what I need to do with, with what I know, because leadership and management is something that I think that's a strength with me.
I agree.
Emotional intelligence is something that I think that is most definitely needed. And I think what I went through, I think that's a strength for me as well. Being humble is a superpower too. I think sitting there, my mom said that you got two ears and one mouth for a reason, to sit there to listen more than to speak. And meeting great people throughout the process too.
Yeah.
So
I think you just set yourself up for your book.
Donna's got keen ears.
You just come talk to me.
Yeah, it's true. There's a story, right?
There is.
Donna and I talk about this all the time, but I think it was probably John Maxwell that I heard first say it. You really don't know someone until you know their story. So what's interesting to me, Gable, is Donna and I don't just invite anyone into these podcasts. We're not looking for somebody who can merely fog a mirror. We're truly out there looking at people who are leading. So we're hearing that in your story already, and that's going to branch into what we know you're doing today, and that we're looking forward to having you share too. We're looking for people that, like I said earlier, have a heart for wanting to invest in others, who are sensitive to, we all face challenges, right? But rather than placating and letting people form an excuse out of what they've experienced, how do we help them navigate through it and be better on the other end of it? And man, that resonates big with what I'm hearing you share, Gable. Don, I'm going to turn to you real quick. I know you've gotten to know Gable too. What's weighing on your heart for kind of wanting to draw out him as we get ready to hear his story from leaving, active duty to things he's doing today?
I'm becoming his PR manager. I keep sending him out to people. I'm like, you need to meet this one. You have to. I was harping on him and Saul Paul. I'm like, you guys need to connect. And Gable's like, I've actually shook hands with him before. I said, yeah, but your missions line up. And just the last ETAP, I was like on him, like, Gable. And so then the next thing I know, I get a picture
Yep.
Saul Paul and him. He goes, "Is that good enough?" And they're
Oh, come on, really? That's
Yep.
it was
Yep.
the best. It was the best text. I was sitting in the kitchen and I just smiled. My husband's like, "What are you smiling about?" I was like, "Look at this." And
that's
he
really
was like, "Oh
cool.
my God." I'm like, "I've been on those two about connecting. I've sent them
Yep.
emails and I talked to him."
Yep.
That's
And then I'm
awesome.
like, "Is that good enough for you?" And they met at the mentoring conference they were
Joint
at.
conference. We was with each other all week. So
That's amazing.
yep, sure enough. Yeah.
See, and that's just kind of when Gable comes out and talks, and
Yeah,
him and I've talked a couple times, stuff, and um, the room always lights up.
it's
They're
true.
always engaged with what he's saying.
That's true.
Because when somebody's like, I'm good at leadership, some people could be like, "Well, that's kind of arrogant," and it's like, no, it's actually knowing your skill set. It's
Yeah.
knowing what you're good at. And, if I said, "Hey, Gable, do you want to go to deliver pizzas or something?" And he might be like, "That's really not my skill set." Although you probably would make it fine. I'm sure you would. But, it's really not it sounds weird, but everybody has leadership qualities in them, but not everybody's necessarily a leader at different levels. Sometimes you're great at a lower level leader. Sometimes you're great at a higher level leader. And the fact that you, Gable, can acknowledge your skill set and you are matched perfectly, which we're going to turn back to you and
Yeah,
let you talk about what you're doing, but you are so matched perfectly for what you're doing. I mean, Jay and I know where he is because we just watched LinkedIn. Here he comes. Boop.
yeah, yeah,
There's
yeah.
Gable,
I always jokingly say I'm pretty sure he's cloned because I don't know how one human being can be so many
I know.
places. It's
That's what I say too. I'm like, I'm exhausted just watching this. Jeez Louise.
yeah. Hey,
Okay,
Gable,
so
share with us, if you will, with our audience. So you had this really amazing Navy career. It's
Yes.
clear that you created a legacy and poured into people, and that lives on beyond your time in uniform. What led you to the space you're in now? I shared with everybody what your title is and that you're in the nonprofit arena, but talk to us a little bit about your journey after you left uniform.
So I wanted to go to a place where I can still get my education and not work right away. So I did research because I was in California. I was in San Diego,
Yeah, yeah,
California. And the cost of living out there was great for me if I was active duty.
sure.
So getting out and I figured out my finances, I would be right away working, needing a job and keeping the house that I had. It would have been, tough. So I research and I find San Antonio. They said this is military city, right? So it was either going to be San Antonio or right back down to Florida, Jacksonville, where I found out. So I took a jump. I went to San Antonio, like on a spring break. I went down, found a house, and then so I went down spring break, which is the March. This is 2016. So I go down March, and then I buy a house in May, and I move my family down in June, and we start our new lives here in San Antonio. My oldest son at the time just graduated high school. My youngest son is just starting 8th grade, and my wife, she is just like she is a component of moving because her father was in the military in the
Sure.
Navy, did 26 years, so she was a Navy brat. So here it is, she went from her father to me. All career been with me, and she's like, I love moving. So we moved to San Antonio. So I moved to San Antonio. I'm the same way. I'm like, let's do this. So the only thing that I did not like about moving to Texas was that at the particular time in 2016, I was a Washington Redskin, aka Commander fan at the
Yeah,
time. And I was
yeah.
like, the Cowboys are there, so I don't like them. I don't want to move to Texas because of that.
Jeez.
Just keeping it real, man. Just
Yeah,
keeping
just
it
keeping it
real.
real. So, but I jumped off that bandwagon with Washington. I went back to the Ravens because they're from Baltimore. My dad was like, "It's time for you to get off that Washington and get back to Baltimore." So, which I did. Jump back onto them. But I come down here and I go to school and I get my education. And the Navy said that I should be a human resource manager because I was a command master chief. Policies, people, recruitment, etc. And I was like, all right, let me go ahead and do this. So what I did was I got my bachelor's degree in management. I got my master's degree in HR, right? So never worked in HR though. So we're going to get to that. So I get my education, that comes later, right? So I go and I'm like, okay, I got my education. I need a job now. I run into a person, his name is Louis Guzman.
Oh, Louis.
Yeah. So I see I see an internship for Soldiers Angels, which is a veteran owned, they deal with veterans. I was like, that is me. I want to help veterans out. I need to be in that space. So I go and I see that it's an internship. I get the interview. Louis is interviewing me, and there's another young lady, which I forgot her name, interviewing me as well. But I remember Louis. He's tall, he's like 6'10", as I would say. Louis is tall.
And a sharp dressed man.
Yeah.
Yeah, and very sharp. Yes.
Yeah, very sharp.
So he was there, and right away he was like, "We need you." So then I start the internship there at Soldiers Angels, and he automatically could tell by my work and my work ethic. He was like, "You're not an intern. We need to do something else with you." So he wasn't in the business of trying to make a job or do something for me in there. Something opened up right after 3 months of doing internship. A position opened up. Logistics. I'm not a logistics guy, but you give me anything. Just like if you made me a piece of delivery guy, I'm gonna make it mine, right? So I went into logistics, and it was called in-kind coordinator, right? So I took all the in-kind information from people that gave us stuff, so we can then in turn, push it back out to the people. And I did a good job at being in-kind coordinator, but I kept telling Louis, I said, this isn't me. I want to be out in the community, talking to people, making them want to be a part of this. They had a job called the area manager. So I was like, I want to be that. I want to be the area manager where I can talk to people. So Louis was like, okay, whenever it opens up, put in application for it. Right. So this job kept coming up, and I kept putting in for it, and they kept not picking me up for it. So I was getting kind of frustrated about it, because I was like, man, I'm very good. I know I'll be good at that. So by this time, Louis has left, and Louis goes to the food bank. He worked for the food bank at first. He went to the food bank. So when he went to the food bank, I was like, I want to go. Right. But that's not the reason that why I left. I tried it one more time to do area manager, and they didn't give it to me. So then I went on my own quest to be happy, because, culture means a lot to me. I got to be in the right culture for me to be able to work and stand out and do my job diligently and do it correctly and professionally and feel comfortable, so I can open up and be humble, right?
Yeah.
So that wasn't for me at Soldiers Angels. I love Soldiers Angels. I still work with them today. I still volunteer with them, but the specific timing of the position and where I was at was not for me. So what do? I go right. This is during so the pandemic comes, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I leave there February. March starts the pandemic. And guess what I go do? I go to school to be a licensed massage therapist.
I forgot that about you.
That
I
was
remember you
helpful.
telling me that. Yeah.
Yeah, I go to be a licensed. So I get my training all the way up until August, and then December comes and I take the tests to be, that was the hardest test that I ever took in my life.
Really?
Yes, it was 100 questions, and they don't tell you, you either pass or fail, and they don't tell you what you miss. So my mind, wood, you can smell wood because my mind's burning. Right? Um, so I passed that test, but at the same time, I see a job in Indeed that says Big Brothers Big Sisters. And the reason why I know about Big Brothers Big Sisters, because I was a big when I was in the military prior to. So I knew about Big Brothers and Big Sisters. I was like, they got one here in South Texas with San Antonio. I went to that job. I got an interview. They interviewed me 4 times. The reason why they interviewed me 4 times is because they looked at my resume and was like, no, you can't be what we want you to be. No, you can't be this neither. So the CEO, like I said, this is very, very rare. She went in and she said, look, I'm going to make a position for you, and we're going to make you the director of community engagement. And it seems like to me that you know how to facilitate, you know how to talk to people, you know how to get people on board to do things, because she read my resume and what I did in military up to then. So That position came up. I had one person, his name is Isaiah Lucio Lopez. We worked together. And now I have another person, which her name is Nguyen Tran. And for the past 3 years, I have been doing recruitment for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And what we do is we provide mentors for kids between the ages of 6 and 16 years old in the city of San Antonio. And I get to go talk to the governor, the mayor, the city manager, all the all the councilmen and women that we have in the city, which we have 10. I went to all the chambers of commerce and talked to all the leadership there, fraternities that are here in the city, sororities that's here in the city, the San Antonio Police Department, the fire department, Valero, all the big companies that are here, Via, like pretty much there's so many people that I network with that I know because of that. And the main reason why I got that job was because of Louis Guzman,
Yeah.
the networking portion. They called him up as a reference, and he told them specifically, if y'all don't pick him up, I'm going to come down there and pick him up so he can be a part of my team here at the food bank. So once they heard that, they made the position, and the rest was history. And here I am today. And helping out kids is my jam. I mean,
Yeah.
that's one thing that I do and I love doing now.
Yeah, let me insert there real quick. Number one, love the accolades you give to Louis. Donna and I we have Louis on tap. He'll interview with us here soon, so everybody will get to meet this guy you're referring to named Louis. But Gable, I'm going to turn it back to you, my friend, because it's the authenticity, the consistency of who you are that has continued to open doors, you seeking opportunities. It's so interesting to me now that I'm hearing in depth, in many ways, more than I knew about you leading into today's episode. But the consistency that tracks all the way back to your upbringing, again, what your father modeled, people, again, standing on point for you, then you being able to apply things in your career to develop others, the opportunities you knew you were qualified for, the passion in your heart for what you wanted to do. I think we draw to us that which we are. So you are in such a beautiful position that fits things that you're passionate about and allows you to utilize those skills that you truly have mastered. So I know I commented on this to you before. I see you a lot. You're always branded, right?
Mm-hmm.
Big
Yeah.
brother stuff on. You've been a big in your life, being a mentor to some others. But I remember you wearing a shirt. I've seen you in it several times, and it says "Real Men Mentor."
Yeah.
And I love that. I love that a lot. But you have a saying, Gable, that you use a lot. You use a saying called "roll."
Yes.
I'm going to turn to you and let you share with everybody. Where'd that come from?
Well,
Tell everybody what it means.
right. You got to tell the story behind
Yeah,
it.
the story.
Yes, yeah, I most definitely will. So when I did make Chief Petty Officer, when I became an E7, we go through an induction transition, per se, right, to become a leader. And they asked everybody like, what you need to have something about yourself that people are going to remember. Like, what is your legacy as far as you becoming a Chief Petty Officer? So I sat down and I thought about things that I do. So role comes from me thinking about respect for one, right? That's the R. And like I always say, like there's two ways to get respect. You're either going to earn it or demand it. I highly challenge everybody to earn it first because it would be that much easier for you if you need to demand it and you can do your job, right?
Yeah.
So the O is observe. So the O is from my dad and from my family because my father always said like observe your surroundings, look at everything that's going on, make sure that you are well protected because in the Baltimore City, I had friends, but I had enemies and I had those frenemies too, the people that's just in your face and they don't want to do you no justice, right? So I always observed that. And then the L is from my mom. She always said, you need to listen. You got two ears and one mouth. You need to darn listen. So I was like, okay. So then the lead part comes from being in being the chief petty officer, I was like, leadership needs to be in there. So when people ask me about role, I said, respect the people that's in front of you, observe everything around you, listen to everything. And once you gather all that, lead with the purpose and be humble about it.
Wow.
You know, have a passion. And that's the way that I roll. So that's what that's how I do it. I was
I
like, this is
love
the way
it.
that I roll. And that's where that came from.
Hey, has Saul Paul asked you to be on like one of his records? Because I think you'd be like awesome with all your little lyrics and your acronyms and
Well, you know, he is actually going to be up in we have a up in Uvalde is going to be doing spring break, and we have a campaign going up there. It's for Uvalde, and it's going to be it's going to be an art campaign.
oh,
We have
nice.
hired we have hired we have hired him, Saul Paul, to be up there to perform. So he's going to be coming up there because as soon as I saw him again, because this is the third time it's been 3 times that I see him doing what he does, right?
Mhm.
So when he was there, I remember you specifically saying I need to hook up with him. Like, he's going to be here. So when he was there, I went straight to him. I said, "Hey, do you know Donna?" "Yeah, I know Donna." "You Gabe." That's exactly how it went. He was like, "You Gabe." He was like, "You Gabe."
My
Yeah,
life is complete.
yeah. So that's how that went
that
down.
that guy can freestyle like no one I've heard.
Oh
Yes,
my,
He's
he
so good.
can.
He's
He has a
good.
it's
plethora of words
awesome.
and stuff like that. But
Yeah.
yeah, but no, we are going to stay connected, and he's a good
Mhm.
person, and I love his mission too. So what he's doing out there, so we're going to stay well connected. Heck yeah.
Good,
Mhm.
good, good, good.
I love hearing every bit of that. Love hearing that.
Yeah.
Hey, Gable, what do you love most about what you're doing right now in this role of director of community engagement and helping connect people with big brothers and big sisters of South Texas? What really has captured you?
I would say watching kids and adults be empowered, because you match a big and a little together, and they're learning from each other, and I get to watch the process, and I'm in the process too, because I still
Yeah,
got a little now.
right.
He's 10 years, he's in 10th grade, and
That's awesome.
watching the empowerment between an adult and a young person is it, it warms my soul. I really believe that mentorship is needed. It's proven that is needed. If you have a mentor in your life, especially through big brothers and big sisters, if you want to talk numbers and statistics, right? Like, there is a 98% chance that you're going to graduate to the next grade if you have a mentor.
Wow.
There's a 97% chance that you're going to graduate from high school if you have a mentor, right?
Wow.
So those numbers I hold dear to me, but I see it every single day. And going to talk to people from the beginning, I'm at a tabling event. You got somebody who comes to me and says, like, "I've never heard of Big Brothers and Big Sisters. Who are you?" I get to explain like the who, what, when, why, and how, and to watch somebody's face. They can be 30, 40, 50, 19 years old. And I give them that story, and they'd be like, "That's a thing? I can do that? I can have an influence on a child's life?" I'm like, "Yes, you can." And
Wow.
it's very simple to do it. And watching that's so to answer your question, Jay, watching empowerment come to fruition as I see the bigs and littles get together. That is something that I love about the job that I do, watching that happen and watching those relationships happen and merge.
What with every good side, and your job, I would probably guess, is 90% awesome. There's challenges on it too. So what do you run into with the challenges?
The biggest challenge I run into is trying to get men of color, to be volunteers or to be mentors. The one thing that I notice here in San Antonio, I don't, I'm gonna try to. I'm not going to say I'm going to a personal thing. This is what I think. This is coming straight from me, from what I've witnessed and seen. And this is all culturally driven. So as I travel to the east side of San Antonio or go to the south side of San Antonio, because I based it off of zip codes of where I go to look for people, right? Because 70% of the kids on my list are Hispanic. 20% of the kids are African American. The other 10% is the other ethnicities within the city. So I make a stern push to go down south, because that's where a majority of Hispanics stay. When I go there, The issue is that the families needs these services, advice, me trying to find men or women to be mentors. So when I talk to them, they're telling me like, hey, I'm trying to survive myself and try to take care of my son or daughter. I don't have the time to actually worry about somebody else's, son or daughter. I got to worry about mine. And culturally, I noticed that for Hispanics and Blacks here in San Antonio. So whenever I address that and I say that, they're more likely to say, I want to take care of my own. Women, however, it doesn't matter what ethnicity they are. Women come out to volunteer. If it deals with trying to teach, coddle, be motherly, anything dealing with what I deal with, they are going to be there and mentor. So they always come out. So the biggest task for me is trying to convince men to do what I do. And I always lead with my example. I say, here's my story. I had kids too at the same time, and this is what I'm doing. And this is what a lot of people are doing too as well. So
Well,
that, that right there.
I'm sorry to interrupt. It just popped in my head. And when somebody has children and they're raising them well, right?
Right.
And you become a mentor, right? And I'm just kind of talking theoretical, and you bring them into your family, right? Or they get to know, they're seeing these children that are well adjusted. And if any example, peer pressure, whether good or bad, is very strong. You know what I mean? So if you have a dad or mom or whoever that is taking in and being a big brother or being a big sister, and their kids are welcoming and supportive, and they see these kids that are making good choices and succeeding in school, doing sports, whatever, it's just almost like an extra validation and almost like extra mentoring. I mean, that's my perspective, whether that's right or wrong, but
yeah. So what I do is, like, when that perspective come up, we have a Black Advisory Council and a Military Mentor Advisory Council, and I get the story. Like, I go back to the community and I bring the Hispanic men with their little, so they can see the story, and they can see like what they're doing. Or I go east, on the east side of town, where the Black men and women are, and I am a walking, you know billboard for Big Brothers and Big Sisters, because I am I have a little, I work for them, and I know the mission and the statement. And I take my little with me everywhere I go, so I can talk about the mission. And Jay saying about me being branded, that's one of the things that I know for a fact that works for anyone, specifically for me. Everybody knows me because I'm going to have on a branded B hat. Like, I'm going to have this hat on, I'm going to be branded somewhere. So that's like one of the things that I wanted to stick out. Even when I go to those communities, they say it like, there's the B guy. They'll say that sometimes if they don't remember my name. So that is.
How can people not remember you, Gable? I'm not buying it. I'm not
I was
buying
gonna
it.
say, I remember you, Gable.
Yeah, I'm not buying it. Hey, Gable, this is fun. Donna and I being of the Air Force variety of service member, you being Navy, aircraft, kind of intertwining those branches though, right? And you directly worked in aviation. We're going to get close to landing the plane here. If I was to ask you, um, to share with everybody how they can get involved with Big Brothers wherever they're at, Big Brothers, Big Sisters, wherever they're at, listening to this podcast episode, what would you share with them?
What I would share with them is that we are a national brand. So if you're here, wherever you are, you can always go to Big Brothers and Big Sisters. It's called bbbsa.org, Big Brothers Big Sisters National. And from the national page, if you're here in San Antonio, you can pick South Texas, and directly our website will come up. But where I'm located, it is bigmentor.org here in Texas. And we cover all of San Antonio. We have a branch down in Corpus Christi. We have another branch that's in Comal, Guadalupe County, and we even have a branch going all the way up there to College Station. So Texas A&M plays a huge part in our mentorship and relationships as well when it comes to, helping out South Texas. But to get a hold of us, you go to the website, you just put Big Brothers Big Sisters National. It will come up, and the national page will come up, and they'll ask you like, what region, and from that region, you pick Texas, you pick Maryland, you pick Washington State, California, Oklahoma, and they'll give you one of the Big Brothers and Big Sisters within the region. Because we're pretty much, it's 238 agencies out there representing Big Brothers and Big Sisters. And in Texas alone, we got here in South Texas, we got Dallas, we got Houston, we got El Paso, and we cover a lot of it too. So we're well received, and the mission behind it is great. I mean, I love the mission. I love helping out kids.
Yeah.
Before we wrap it up, this popped in my head quick. What do you have a stat possibly, or just an anecdotal stat? Do you see a lot of veteran children that need mentors? Especially when you're dealing with a lot of parents that have PTSD and yeah.
So we have a very specific grant that comes to us that is very directed towards veterans, and I'm highly involved with it through United Way. So United Way, so our partnership with United Way, they have partnerships with all the bases, right? And through us, all the military families that's under Big Brothers and Big Sisters, I get to personally talk to them because I'm a veteran. I get to see them utilize all the tools and accolades that we have for Big Brothers and Big Sisters. United Way paves a way for us to make way for the military families here. So if there is a family out there where the husband or the wife is deployed and you have like the parent who is staying home, we'll come in there and say we can provide a mentor, even for the parent that is there, that we can help out in some fashion. So we have a strong relationship with United Way and veterans, and veteran plays a huge part. One stat I will get you when it comes about veterans is that 34% of the people who volunteers for us is active duty African American females.
Wow.
Let me tell you, it popped in my head because at one point I'm both military or retired and was a dependent, right? And I remember when our son was 2-3 years old, and we're new down here in San Antonio, and my husband deploys, right? And he's gone for 6 months, and it's just me and my kiddo. And he's just hitting the age that he knows dad. He knows that dad's gone. That's his buddy, everything. Anyways, long story short, our neighbors, he was a state trooper, and he was about the same size as my husband. And their son was just a little bit older, like 10 months older. And so they would kind of like play together. And he acted like a surrogate dad. And I am forever grateful for Tony. And we used to laugh because their kids are more solid. And Brady was like a waif comparatively. And he goes, I have to remember when I scoop him up to not throw him into the air. He might not come back, And so we'd start laughing. But I forever grateful to have a male figure in the house, that's what was missing. And it works both ways, right? When the mom's gone, same thing. So that's what kind of popped in my head, is like, that would have been, my kids were a little older, that would have been a good thing, is to bring in Big Brothers Big Sisters. So yeah,
that's huge.
Yeah.
Donna, what do you want to squeeze out of Gable before we lose this incredible human being on this episode?
I was shocked we got him. He's like trying to get Louis.
I know. Yeah, he's
I mean, I will say this. I told Jay this. I will keep telling this to Jay, and now you, Donna, you're going to be implemented as well, because every time I would go and help Jay out for us to do a panel, it's Jay that I would focus on. I didn't know that she was actually in the back at times. You know what I'm saying? Just hanging out, right?
I hide out back there.
Yeah. So, and I'm thinking that you're probably one of the military vets that's in there, but I started noticing like, no, that's the same person that's there every time that I come, probably.
Sure. Yeah.
But what I'm going to say is that I am forever indebted to you two, because I truly love the mission that you're doing with the veterans that are trying to transition into either nonprofit, for profit, trying to be a entrepreneur. And I know all those sides of what they need to be, and I can help out with
Yes,
that
you do.
mission. And one thing that I did not state is that I'm also a spin instructor too. So that's
I was
another
going to call that out earlier, Gable. I'm actually glad it came up before. I was going to say to people, you don't understand. This man doesn't just pour himself out. He still takes care of himself. You talked earlier about work you get to do with the mayor and with the governor, and you're on the mayor's fitness council.
I am the co-chair for the Mayor's Fitness Council. Yes, I am.
So
Yeah.
you know Mandy Tyler then.
I do know Mandy. Yes.
Yeah.
I know her. She's
I
a
know
good
Mandy.
friend of mine. Yes, that's
See,
right.
that's
Shout
fun.
out to
But
Mandy.
this is the real deal, everybody. I can't begin to emphasize. Now you
Mhm.
know you can go out on YouTube and pull up some videos.
Wait,
big
I need to
safety.
ask. Do
Yeah.
you do spin classes for the mayor's council? Are they all spinning
No,
with you?
well, the YMCA tried to pick me up to do it, but I was with LA Fitness. So
Oh, that's
they tried.
hilarious.
I was going to. I mean, if they asked me, I would. So
That is
Yeah.
awesome. See, lots of layers. That's what makes it
Lot
good.
of
So if
layers,
you
it's
want some
true.
coaching, a spin class, and end it with a massage, Gable's your guy.
Gable.
there it is.
Gable,
That's awesome.
you've touched my life, my friend, and I know
Mhm.
you're touching the lives of so many, and you are standing in the gap. And before I turn it over to Donna to kind of wrap this, I just wanted to say to you, I admire, respect, appreciate you. Man, I just want to hang on to your coattails as much as I can, but thank you for your heart, your leadership, and for the impact you're making out there. It's noticed. You may not hear it enough. I don't know, right? Sometimes when we're out there doing what we love, we can sometimes feel like it's not being received or recognized. But I want you to know we see it. We see you. And I just wanted to tell you I love you, brother. I appreciate you.
Man, right back at you too. You got me, Jay. So don't worry about it. Whatever you or Donna need me for anything, trust me when I say I am going to be there for you guys. Because
Oh, careful
a
what
blessing.
you ask for. My wheels are spinning right
I know.
now.
So
Yeah.
I'm in your debt right now, Donna. So whatever you need, whatever you need.
You should
Don, I'll
not
turn it
say
to you
stuff
to
like that.
I'll turn it to you to land the plane.
All right. All right. We could tease all day. All right, everybody. As always, we are so grateful. We actually just hit 2,500 downloads, which was pretty cool. And just for the audience to know, downloads does not mean listening. It just means people actually stopped and downloaded it. So we're guessing there might be 2 or 3 times more people listening. So that's even more exciting. And we thank this all to you guys, our audience and our guests, because if we didn't have those two, it would be Jay and I talking to ourselves. And honestly, we talk enough to ourselves. So from all of us here on Beyond the Front Line and our parent podcast, Coming Home Well, we thank you guys. If you get a chance, we just launched a radio streaming channel called CHW Radio Stream. You can get it on Google and Apple or whatever the downloads are. You can go download it on both phones. And you can listen to it on your computer. So from all of us to all of you, you guys have a great week.
Take care, everybody.
God bless.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Front Line, a podcast of Coming Home Well. Join us every other Wednesday. And if you enjoyed this episode, please share it with others, post about it on social media, or leave a rating and review.